The most innovative feature of the new EU consensus is to put the European development policy in line with the Agenda 2030 and with the new framework which has been defined by the SDGs. It is an important shift because, as everybody knows and as everybody has understood, we are passing from what we do for our partner countries under the MDGs approach to a much more complex approach, a global problem, global response. We are all involved in what we are doing, so we are working for common goods and we are therefore sharing also responsibility. Well, I think that it fits well in the sense that the European Union is facing increasingly global challenge. It has always been a sort of buffer between globalization and European citizens, offering a unique model of integration, regional integration, with values and with achievements like the European way of life, the European welfare, the European system in sharing solidarity, in sharing responsibility and deciding in a quite unique way. Now we are talking about the new challenges which are facing the world: climate change, poverty, imbalances, unsustainability of the way in which we are consuming and producing, and the way in which we are distributing also the growth and the fruits of the growth that we are producing. All this is called SDGs. That is a way to say we have to work and to further contribute for a world which is better for everybody and more just for everybody. The new consensus is therefore a way to define a development policy which is a global one, which is the one which is able to deal with globalization, which is the one taking together, not by pieces, but all together, the different instruments that we have in order to contribute to a more sustainable world. This means climate change agenda, this means peace and security agenda, this means prosperity agenda, this means peace, this means people at the end. Therefore, this is the challenge that the European Commission has in the moment when it has proposed to member states and to citizens via the European Parliament to adopt a new approach on development that we call the European Consensus on Development. Well, development policy is important because it has always been a policy which, by definition, dealing with poverty, dealing with inequalities, has always been at the center of the globalization, with opportunities and challenges. Therefore, now it is a moment in which we have to do a sort of last path shift in terms of setting policies, meaning that we have to think about the policies that we are setting at home, because there is a link between what we are doing in the Union and what we are able to represent outside the Union through our external action. Second, the development policy will be firmly embedded into the external action of the Union, which has been described by the HRVP Mogherini EU Global Strategy. And third, we are a policy which is representing the way to have people always in mind when we are talking about big issues, big problems. Very often our citizens, as everywhere in the world, are a bit scared by globalization because they see opportunities, but certainly they see also threats in their daily life. Let's think about security and terrorism, for example. Let's think about also food security in the sense of the quality, in the sense of the standard, in the sense of the protection. There are new forms of poverties which are shared, by the way, between European citizens and the traditional poor in our partner countries. So the first thing is that our development policy should contribute to set up right policies in the Union. It will not be the main policy, but it will contribute. It will be the policy in the forefront of the international scene in order to set up right policy, or to be partner with our countries in order to set up right policies and to put financial means to support this. Financial means is not just the old way of spending money, which was very much close to a sort of quality charity. It's a way to invest in our common future. Therefore, the development policy is a way to consolidate our future, to protect our future, to prepare our future, but not alone. And this is the change, together with our partners. Well, I would not say it is totally different. It's rather an evolution, a further evolution. When we set up the previous policy framework, the consensus, the first ever European consensus in 2005, we tried to, let's say, set up a vision, a method, and priorities. The vision was the one based on European values, human rights protection, fundamental rights, partnership, way of looking at democracy and looking at our way of life, which is based on solidarity, even if in these days, also this is under threat. But the second is the method. We have always said we have to do that together in partnership. We have been among the first in saying that in our development policy, because it is a way we have been building European Union among ourselves on solidarity, and sharing responsibility. We call it partnership. We call it ownership of our partners, which is not to be convinced that we are right, but to build together the right things to do together. And the third is to build more union through development policy, in the sense that, there is a big difference to think about the Commission alone, which is an important player, of course, and the European Union, which means the Commission and the 28. And everybody knows, or should know, that the European Union is, in terms of means, in terms of money, the biggest donor in the world, more than $60 billion. Therefore, if we do together, we are at the same time building more Europe and also more effectiveness in our action. The two things are closely linked. We will not be able to do it better and to take this challenge if we are not building a more integrated and more effective union, which is speaking and acting as one in the international scene. What is driving is the new environment, which is based on SDGs and which is based on a comprehensive approach to the development, let's say, issues. What it will change is that we'll try to identify, on the basis of the Agenda 2030, let's say, the building blocks of the development policy of the future. One is people, not to lose sight of the fact that at the end our objective is to make people's life better. Second is about our planet. Is about the conditions in which we are working, is climate change, but also is the way through which we approach production and consumption. The third block is about productivity. We have to say clearly that there will be no development, inclusive development, if there is no economic growth. And therefore, we have to change quite radically the way in which we are doing our work. We have to put much more money in order to support investment. If I say, probably the most important feature, which follows from the agenda of Addis Abeba on financing for development, is that our money, our development money, should increasingly be spent in order to be a leverage for mobilizing private and public money. The efforts and the needs are too big to be dealt with by ODA and by development aid as we used to do in the past. Therefore, this is a powerful shift. Then peace, because we have to consider and we have to fully take the fact that no peace and stability, no development. Development policy is not a policy which is formulating defense or military policies or financing military policy, but it is a policy which is complementary to this, that we must work hand in hand. What we are doing in these days, in the Sahel region, for example, where the challenges of poverty, the challenges of vulnerability of these countries, the challenge of trafficking of human beings, which very often are ending up in a boat in the Mediterranean, which is sinking with people dying, the challenges of terrorism, and the challenge that all this is called poverty, are intimately linked. We are trying to address all this together. And development policy has a major role to play on this, without preconception and without any kind of timidity. I think that we must be part of it. We are showing in these days that we are part of this external policies, playing our role, helping people, but helping people in a context in which all instruments of the European Union are putting at work. Well, I think that we will make a proposal, and we hope that at the end there will be not only an agreement with the member state at the European Council level, but also with the European Parliament. So our ambition, which is the basic task of the Commission, is to make proposals which at the end are representative and which can be embraced by state and people. Therefore, so far, I think that we have had long discussion, good discussions. It's not an easy moment. There are some paradigm shifts which are quite important, but I'm very much confident that Member States and the European Parliament will be on board at the end, and we will be stronger together.